Kremlin wants to boost voter turnout.
There's been a flood of information on state TV and all across the country, sort of local initiatives put forward to get people, pensioners, young people out to vote.
Results of the presidential election in Russia are due from midnight, with the official announcement from 7 tomorrow morning. Several people have been injured after a car was driven into a nightclub marquee in Kent. A man's been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder in Gravesend. Greater Manchester Fire Service have dealt with a huge fire at a mill overnight. More than 50 firefighters were called to Stalybridge just before midnight. York has been named the best place to live in Britain. The city is top in a list in the Sunday Times, cited for its combination of ancient beauty and recent modernisation. LBC weather: prolonged snowfall across the west and southwest, continuing over the north, easing in the south, bitterly cold everywhere, a high of 2 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Philip Chrysikos.
Range Rover Evoque is at home at the city's most stylish addresses and in the countryside's wildest destinations. It can cross continents and take 5 friends to the theatre, and it might even save you money. Buy and register any new Evoque before April the 1st and you'll avoid the rise in vehicle excise duty. You won't just beat the tax increase, you'll drive away with a brand new registration plate. Range Rover Evoque from just £30,760 subject to availability. Land Rover, above and beyond.
LBC travel starting in Northolt in northwest London. The A40 is closed westbound between the Target roundabout and the Polish War Memorial because of an accident. Traffic is diverting down the A312 at the moment. On the North Circular Road, the traffic lights have stopped working at Henley's Corner, and in central London, Piccadilly is closed eastbound from Hyde Park Corner to just before Green Park Station because of the St Patrick's Day parade, which is due to start at around midday. There will be more closures going in along Piccadilly, Pall Mall, Shaftesbury Avenue and Haymarket. On the A31 in Surrey, the road has been closed eastbound between the turn-off at Aldershot and the Hogsback Junction at Guildford because of the snow. LBC Travel, I'm Ross Powell.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Good morning, everybody, and I hope you're enjoying this snowy Sunday morning. It's a big day today. It's election day in Russia. Yes, that's right. Vladimir Putin is up for re-election for another 6-year term. His main opponent has been disqualified from the contest. Funny that, isn't it? On a fraud charge. And I think I can say with some accuracy that he is going to win the election by a complete and utter landslide. I'm quite certain he would have won it by a landslide, with or without what has been happening in terms of their relationship with the United Kingdom and indeed with the rest of the Western world. Now, we've been met, as this week has gone on, by a degree of total and absolute certainty from the establishment that it was the Kremlin directly responsible for the nerve agent that was used in Salisbury. Boris was I think, maybe you think he was jumping the gun, maybe you don't. But just let's have a listen to Boris Johnson speaking in his Uxbridge constituency in West London on Friday.
Our quarrel is with Putin's Kremlin and with his decision. And we think it overwhelmingly likely that it was his decision to direct the use of a nerve agent on the streets of the UK, on the streets of Europe, for the first time since the Second World War.
Moscow not impressed with that and calling Boris Johnson's claim that it's overwhelmingly likely. They said it's shocking and unforgivable. And yesterday, Theresa May, having had arguably the best week of her premiership, I mean, when you saw her walking around the Market Square in Salisbury this week, I've never seen her look happier, frankly. And she spoke yesterday at the Tory party's spring conference, and she says that, you know, there may be more coming from the UK government in the coming days.
In light of their previous behaviour, we anticipated a response of this kind, and we will consider our next steps in the coming days, alongside our allies and partners. But Russia's response doesn't change the facts of the matter. The attempted assassination of 2 people on British soil, for which there is no alternative conclusion other than that the Russian state was culpable.
So, as I say, an absolute degree of certainty here. And another giant of British politics, our Defence Secretary Gavin Williamson speaking last week.
Frankly, Russia should go away, it should shut up.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, let's not take him too seriously. But I tell you what, when the Prime Minister and Foreign Secretary, say it's overwhelmingly likely, there's one little question that I want to ask. And by the way, I've said from the start of this, I do believe that it's a Russian actor. It's in keeping with many of the things that we see happen to former Russian spies and to those who cross the Putin regime. I have little doubt that it's a Russian actor. I'm just not absolutely certain, and from the looks of it, nobody is certain that this was directed by Putin. I mean, why? Why would he do it when they've got the World Cup coming up in a few months? I mean, the big showcase, I thought, for Putin's modern Russia. I don't know is the answer, and no one does. And I would say, if the government do have this evidence, well, can we please see it? Now, I'm not the only mildly sceptical voice on this, because Peter Hitchens, today in the Mail on Sunday, wrote a very, very strong piece where he said that Jeremy Corbyn has a better record on foreign policy than almost anyone in Parliament. And that's going to be quite a big surprise to a lot of Mail on Sunday readers this morning and those of a Conservative disposition. Well, I caught up with Peter Hitchens earlier on this morning. He was out walking in the snow, so you may just hear a slight crackle of the wind from the mini beast from the east. Let's listen to Peter.
Well, I'm not sure that Mr. Corbyn said it was anybody else. I think what he said was that we should hesitate before rushing into action without any actual final determination of the facts.
Yep.
Which is the lesson, after all, which is the lesson of Iraq, where we were told that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction trained on this country, and it was all a complete pile of round objects, as seemed obvious to me at the time. This is different in many ways. We're not proposing to go to war at the moment, and I personally think, and I think Mr. Corbyn has said that it's reasonable for us to take action, but we mustn't rush to judgment on the facts. It's sort of as if we're hanging people or opening fire. We're just taking diplomatic action against Russia on the assumption that the huge amount of circumstantial evidence points towards them. My own view is that it is most likely a Russian operation. I don't think there's any point in really messing around about that. But that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be caution both about the gathering of the evidence and the conclusions that we draw, and also, I should add, caution about what we actually do.
Peter, what happens now? I mean, are we ever likely to find out? And I agree with you, it was almost certainly a Russian operative, but whether it was a rogue agent or somebody directed by the Kremlin, do you think we'll ever find out the truth of this?
Well, it's quite possible we won't. We haven't ever really found out who killed Alexander Litvinenko either, and I think it's quite possible we never will. These things are extremely hard to determine, and if they're competently done by the wicked people who do them, they deliberately make it hard for us to know. Yeah. But on the other hand, they also are happy for us to suspect them, because it's my view the Russians conducted this operation precisely to frighten us.
And finally, Peter, the Prime Minister was there in Salisbury, fist-bumping young members of the audience. I've never seen her look so radiant. Does this mark a turning point in Theresa May's popularity?
Oh, good heavens, I don't know. I mean, it does seem to me to be a great pity that the prospect of foreign conflict can elevate politicians who are otherwise undistinguished to a position of national leadership and popularity. But I suppose, given how miserable her popularity ratings have been for so long, she can't really be blamed for taking a bit of popularity when it comes. But no, I think that ultimately the fact that this is not a particularly competent or effective government, or a very strong one, or a very decisive one, won't be overcome by a brief frenzy of patriotic enthusiasm.
No, and she faces a very big challenge this week. Of course, she goes to Brussels on Thursday, the big European summit, at which we're supposed to agree the transition. I wonder whether she'll be as tough there as she has appeared over Russia.
Well, it's a good deal easier to be tough on the Russian bogeyman, because you're basically being tough on him with your mouth, than it is to be tough with the European Union, which has many, many wiles and methods of tripping up and entangling British Prime Ministers.
Well, that was Peter Hitchens, Mail on Sunday commentator, making the point that he, like me, thinks it was a Russian actor, but should we not perhaps have a little bit more proof before we rush to action and before this game of tit for tat escalates? We are expelling 23 Where do they get the figure 23 from? I do not know. But we're expelling 23 diplomats, and in return, the Russians are expelling 23 of ours from Moscow and closing down the British Council. Breaking news in the last hour. Experts from the Organisation for the Protection of Chemical Weapons will come to the UK on Monday to test samples of the nerve agent used in the Salisbury spy poisoning, Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson has said. So let's have a little think about that. We've said it's overwhelmingly likely that it's the Kremlin. Boris said that himself. But we're now going to test it to try and get the facts. That's how it seems to me, folks. Please tell me, has the government provided you with enough evidence to make up your mind as to who was behind this poisoning? And if you think Mrs May is absolutely, of course she's right, and she's playing an heroic role in all of this, then call me on 0345 6060 973. Or perhaps you take the view that I take, Peter Hitchens takes, and to some extent Jeremy Corbyn takes, which is to say, please can we have a bit more evidence before this new Cold War escalates any further, in which case text to 84850. And I'm interested, do you actually believe anything our politicians say and our leaders say about anything anymore? And let me know your thoughts on that by tweeting using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and you can of course watch us on Facebook. I'm live from the LBC studio here in London. Right. We've had our clips, we've spoken to our commentator, but remember, the whole point of this show on a Sunday morning is you can turn on to radio channels and TV channels and you'll see a whole load of journalists talking to a whole load of journalists. And this is the one place, LBC, where the public get to come and have their say. And my first caller today is Jeff, who's calling from Munich. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Nigel. Yeah, greetings from Munich for Trouter Fine, trusted enemy again. Yeah? We've spoken to each other in the past.
I remember, yeah.
Mate, yeah.
I remember. So, Jeff, have the government provided, in your opinion, enough evidence to make it certain that what happened in Salisbury was sanctioned by Mr. Putin himself?
I absolutely dislike this government, and particularly Boris Johnson, Theresa May. But in this issue, I think that on the basis of the balance of probabilities, because there is never going to be 100% proof that they are doing the right thing on the basis of what they know. They're never going to find somebody who's going to say, I did this. And it is as far along as it could possibly be. And, to open a suitcase with nerve agents in the United Kingdom, which didn't only just injure a policeman, but could have caused extreme damage in the Salisbury town to many, many people, is an extreme act.
Oh, Jeff, no one's disagreeing with that. I mean, look, it is, and I've been arguing that had this occurred as a result of an Islamist group or a far-right group, we'd be calling it terrorism. So I'm not downplaying the seriousness of what happened. But, Jeff, you talk about the balance of probabilities. So let's imagine, Jeff, you got yourself caught up in a very complex case that went to trial over fraud, and you were defending your innocence. And I was the judge, and I said, but, Jeff, the balance of probabilities is that you're probably guilty and you're going to prison. You wouldn't be very happy, would you?
Well, I would think that on a local level, on that basis, there would be a higher level of proof. When you're dealing with a professional country like Russia, who deal, with these things, who have their own agencies, who are experts in, covert operations and hiding themselves, it's a little bit difficult to compare the two things, though, isn't it, Nigel? Yeah?
Well, I'm not sure, Jeff. I'm not sure. I mean, I worry that we're going helter-skelter into a new Cold War. Goodness knows where it all ends up. And I would like a little bit more evidence than we've got at the moment.
Could I ask you one more question, Nigel, yeah?
Yeah.
To slide the point a little bit to the side, if you'll forgive me, if you'll allow me to do that. Huh?
Briefly, yes, go on.
Very briefly. We are leaving the European Union, and you're the Godzilla of Brexit, and, I respect you for that. And we are going to find ourselves standing very much alone like we did in 1940. Is this the time to push our allies away when there are dangers around.
Absolutely. We need our European friends with us. I heard Frans Timmermans in the European Parliament this week making that point. And then it all went pear-shaped because somebody that works for President Macron said Britain had rushed to judgment. But very, very soon he was slapped down and there was the voice of unanimity. And I can see now at the European Summit on Thursday, Mr. Juncker, best they catch him before lunch, I suppose, but Mr. Juncker saying this proves European solidarity and why we must all be together. And I'd respond, Jeff, by saying, had it not been for the crazy ideas of the European Union and NATO to expand in an eastward direction to try and take the Ukraine into their empires, we might not be here in the first place. Jeff, I've got to go. I thank you, Jeff. Do call again. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 10:17.
Completely overwhelmed.
After this year of chaos.
So I don't know what he was up to.
LBC at the weekend. Majid Nawaz.
I think we'll see in 2018 a Russia that wishes it never entangled itself with much of the world stage because it doesn't have the economy and it certainly doesn't have as many friends on the world stage who are prepared to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Leading Britain's conversation. Majid Nawaz. Today from 12 on LBC.
America's leadership must be guided by the lights of learning and reason.
That was part of the speech that died with President Kennedy when he was assassinated. Using the latest AI technology, the Times has enabled him to finally deliver the words he never spoke. Hear the full speech at thetimes.co.uk/JFK Unsilenced.
When you work for yourself, you learn a few things very quickly. Claim VAT back on as much as you can. Cash flow can go from a flood to a trickle if you don't keep an eye on it. And shoeboxes are not the best filing system. If you snap a picture of your receipts and sort them with QuickBooks, you'll know what's going out and coming in with just a few taps. Track all your expenses and keep your cash flowing with QuickBooks. Backing you. Available now for up to 50% off your first 6 months. For terms and conditions, visit quickbooks.co.uk.
At Motorpoint, we know life is full of different journeys. Short ones, long ones, and everything in between ones. So wherever life takes you, we'll help you get there. Our 7,000 low-mileage used cars are all under 3 years old. And with an average saving of £8,500 off the new list price, there's no need to haggle. And you can drive away the same day, even if you're part exchanging. There's a Motorpoint car for every journey. Visit Motorpoint Chingford or motorpoint.co.uk today.
Block management? It's a doddle, isn't it? I mean, once you've got budget approval, all you need to do is your service charge invoices,
health and safety regulations paperwork, do the cleaning, the gardening, general maintenance, sort out site inspections, arrange contracts, insurance, emergency representation.
Yes, block management. Such a doddle.
Save time and money and cut down on the stress. For complete block management solutions, just call ABC Estates. ABC will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry.
For complete block management solutions, see abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
What's the smart way to experience Cork? Fly from London Heathrow up to 5 times a day with Aer Lingus and enjoy a warm Irish welcome the moment you step on board. Discover 5,000 years of history in Ireland's ancient East. Sample the best of Irish cuisine at Cork's English Market or take in stunning ocean views along the wild Atlantic Way. Fares are from $52.99 each way as part of a return trip. Smart gets ready to explore Ireland. Smart flies Aer Lingus. Book now at aerlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
You know you're Baroque from your rock, from your contemporary jazz, from your German underground progressive minimal techno. But do you know your pension options? PensionWise is a service set up by the government to provide free, impartial guidance about your pension pot. If you're over 50, call 0800 138 1888 to book your free telephone or face-to-face appointment. PensionWise. Get to know your options.
With breakdown cover from the AA, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure your big wheels keep on turning. Our mechanics usually fix your car within 30 minutes of arriving. Breakdown cover from the AA, because anything can happen.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
On text, Tony from Milton Keynes says the use of weapons of mass destruction on UK soil has been shown to have emanated from the Russian Federation, regardless of the characters who implemented it. Well, what Tony, of course, is referring to is that the nerve agent is said to only have been made there. But let's listen, because we must hear the other side of the argument, whether we trust them or it or not. But let's listen to Vladimir Chizhov, and he is Russia's EU ambassador. And by the way, before the conspiracy theories start and the photographs appear, I did once shake his hand outside the European Parliament building because he proffered it to me. I didn't know who he was from Adam. But let's listen to what he had to say, because he suggested that a UK research laboratory could be the source of this nerve agent that was used. He was on the Andrew Marr programme this morning, and he insists that Russia had nothing to do with the poisoning in Salisbury of Sergei Skripal and his daughter, Yulia.
When you have a nerve agent or whatever, you check it against certain samples that you retain in your laboratories. And Porton Down, as we now all know, is the largest military facility in the United Kingdom that has been dealing with chemical weapons research. And it's actually only 8 miles from Salisbury.
You're not suggesting that Porton Down is responsible for this nerve agent?
I don't know. I don't have any evidence of anything having been used.
Well, maybe we're going to get more evidence, because Boris Johnson, has now said that there is going to be a proper investigation, because tomorrow experts from the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons will be in the United Kingdom to test samples of that nerve agent. What a pity, Boris, you didn't call them in a few days before. It might have ended. What I still think is a degree of uncertainty out there. Yeah, I know that the political establishment are all lined up behind this. I know there is a big consensus, and there are very, very few sceptical voices. But, I've seen these consensus build-ups in politics before. I saw it over Libya. I saw it over the Iraq War, and they were wrong on both of those occasions. So, forgive me, a degree of scepticism about this. I want to see a little bit more evidence to convince me that it is Vladimir Putin. I have no doubt that it is a Russian actor of some kind. And I sense in the country, certainly over the course of the last week, with the calls, texts, tweets, Facebook messages coming into LBC, that there is far less trust in what governments and prime ministers tell us than has ever been before. That's what I think, but hey, you tell me. Rudy is calling from Exeter. Good morning, Rudy.
Yeah, hi, Nigel. I think one of the questions that people haven't asked is, first of all, how did the chemicals get into the UK in the first place? And, it shows that, obviously, they've got no control over our borders, what goes in, what goes out, which then puts another question of free movement of people. So I actually blame the government, because they're not doing enough to protect our borders.
Well, Rudy, one of the suggestions was that actually this nerve agent had been placed inside her suitcase when she was on a trip to Moscow. That's one explanation, but we don't know the answer. And of course, the worry is, with all of this, we may never know what the answers are. Rudy, very, very few people have been as critical of the last few governments over the free movement of peoples, the threat that it poses perhaps to security, as me. I think in the case of a nerve agent that's stuffed inside someone's suitcase, it's a little bit difficult to pin this one on the government.
But you say that, but do you know that they're doing you for a can of hairspray going through the X-ray machine? And you're telling me they can't detect something in the suitcase? It's like a friend of mine had a watch he bought from England and went back to America. They withheld his bag at customs in America because they found a watch box in his bag. Yeah. And you're telling me they can't find that with nerve agents?
I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. I'd love somebody, please, on 0345 6060 973 who's involved with airport security to give us the answer to this. But, Rudy, I suspect that detecting a powder in some small trace form would be an incredibly hard thing to do.
Oh, you say that, Nigel, but you see these Australian border security programs, and they pick up absolutely everything going through their security. Absolutely. If something's not right when it goes through the X-ray, they know exactly what it is.
There is one explanation, Rudy, and let's, if we can find the technicals on this, we will. But there is one other explanation, Rudy, that's just come to me that might put this closer to the Russian government and Putin than anything we've seen before, because there is something called the diplomatic bag. And diplomats go back and forth between countries with a diplomatic bag, which is not to be checked. So if it was indeed Putin who said, get that traitor wiped out and get it done before my elections on Sunday, because it's going to make me even more popular than I was before. If that's what Putin said, then putting that nerve agent inside a diplomatic bag would get it into this country, Rudy, without any checks.
I absolutely agree with you on that, which also gives me the question of then if maybe that the way the world is with free movement of people and so on, that rule should be now abolished because you should put your citizens first over and above everything else.
Well, if you have a foreign power that you think poses a threat to you, you wouldn't actually allow them diplomatic status, and you'd close the embassy down. Rudy, interesting questions, don't know the answers, but anybody out there that knows how airport security works, because you would have flown back from Moscow to this country, please let us know. Tony is a first-time caller to this show, and he lives in Leighton. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Nigel. First time I'm speaking to you. I hardly ever agree with you.
Right. Good morning.
Good morning, but today I think I will.
Okay.
Just before I start, Rudy, I don't think he should be shoehorning freedom of movement into this conversation. Whether we're part of the EU or not, this thing could still have happened.
Well, of all the people, Tony, it was me that shot that argument down, okay?
Right, okay, yes. Well, that's why, as you see, I've already agreed with you, so some more brownie points for you.
Well, it's Sunday morning, Tony. It's a time for people to come together, and maybe be a bit more collegiate.
Well, my point, basically, where I called was that I have no doubt myself that it's the Russians, but for reasons of past form with WADA and other things, and I know the Russians are going to deny it, but Tony Blair have left us the legacy that we now have. The government has to provide us with the information as to how they've arrived at their conclusion that it's the Russians. I'm prepared to go with our government because I would rather believe our government over the Russians. But that's not really going to be good enough to take action without telling us how they've arrived at their conclusion. And actually, Corbyn was the only one who seemed to ask for caution. I don't recall you supporting Corbyn at the time, though, Nigel.
Tony, I was one of the most vociferous voices against us going to war in Libya, against us getting involved in Syria, and indeed against Iraq. And if you want to go back and look through previous clips of Question Time, going back 14, 15 years, yes, I've oddly found myself on foreign policy quite often on the non-interventionist side of Jeremy Corbyn. Although, can I just say, I'm not a fan of Hamas, Hezbollah, Sinn Féin or the IRA commanders.
Yes, and I'm not talking about those past wars that we needlessly entered into. It's just this current one. What I find is that, yes, I think with you've actually shown that sometimes you put your beliefs above the politics. But some people don't seem to be able to do that.
I know.
So once it was Jeremy Corbyn speaking, they all said, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn, he's always he's an apologist all the time."
Tony, in conclusion,
the right thing.
Tony, in conclusion, you want to see some more evidence, yeah?
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you. We've got to move on. Well, if Boris hasn't persuaded you, if Theresa May hasn't persuaded you, maybe that modern-day giant of UK politics, Gavin Williamson, our Defence Secretary, can persuade you.
Frankly, Russia should go away. It should shut up.
That is the calibre of people we now have leading our country. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive in LBC. It is now 10:31, and time for the news with Philip Chrysikos.
10 clifftop homes in Norfolk have been evacuated over fears heavy snow and ice has them at risk of falling into the sea. Amber and yellow warnings cover much of England and Wales. South Wales and the southwest of England are expecting up to 10 inches of snowfall. Boris Johnson says experts from the chemical watchdog will arrive in London tomorrow. The Foreign Secretary confirms chemists from The Hague will test samples of the nerve agent used in Salisbury. It's as Mr Johnson describes Russia's expulsion of 23 British diplomats as futile. At least 13 people have been injured after a car drove into a nightclub marquee in Kent. A 21-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder in Gravesend. LBC weather: prolonged snowfall across the west and southwest, continuing over the north, easing in the south, bitterly cold everywhere, a high of 2 degrees.
LBC travel starting at Northolt in West London. The A40 is closed westbound between the Target roundabout and the Polish War Memorial because of an accident. Diversion route is being set up. On the North Circular, the traffic lights have stopped working at Henley's Corner, and in central London, Piccadilly is still closed eastbound from Hyde Park Corner to just before Green Park Tube Station because of the St Patrick's Day parade, which is going to start around midday. There will be more closures going in along Piccadilly, Pall Mall, Shaftesbury Avenue and Haymarket. On the A31 in Surrey, the road has been closed eastbound between the turn-off at Aldershot and the Hogsback Junction at Guildford. LBC Travel, I'm Ross Powell.
This is LBC.
What's the smart way to experience Cork? Fly from London Heathrow up to 5 times a day with Aer Lingus and enjoy a warm Irish welcome the moment you step on board. Discover 5,000 years of history in Ireland's ancient East. Sample the best of Irish cuisine at Cork's English Market, or take in stunning ocean views along the wild Atlantic Way. Fares are from $52.99 each way as part of a return trip. Smart gets ready to explore Ireland. Smart flies Aer Lingus. Book now at aerlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
We've been thinking about pruning. Not your peonies or your privet, but your cost of living. And how, from broadband to mobile phones, these days we're all looking for ways to trim our spending. And then we thought, couldn't we help you cut back on your biggest outgoing? And we thought, yes, we could. So we'll always try to help you remortgage to a better rate and save on your monthly repayments. Mortgages for how life is now. NatWest. We are what we do.
Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage.
Shut the door on routine. Start something new. Power your adventure and unmap your life with the Jeep Renegade from £189 a month. With 5-star Euro NCAP safety rating, touchscreen, Bluetooth, sat-nav and legendary Jeep capability. Visit jeep.co.uk to begin your journey today. Personal contract hire. Jeep Renegade 1.4 longitude manual. Initial rental of £1,134. 48-month term, 8,000 miles per annum until March 31st, 2018. Subject to status. Leases.
Love your skin. Love your hair. Love your nails. Perfectil delivers nutritional support from within, including zinc, to help you maintain normal skin, hair and nails. Perfectil, the science of beauty, from Vitabiotics, the UK's #1 vitamin company. From Boots, pharmacies and Vitabiotics.com.
He's on the home stretch. Wait, he's stopped. Extraordinary. He's having a picnic on the side of the track.
Is the performance of your cash ISA a bit of a disappointment? At Money Farm, our experts can match you with an investment ISA that could give your money the chance to perform better. And right now, we'll look after your full ISA allowance free of management fees for a year if you transfer over £10,000. You have one life. Invest wisely. Visit moneyfarm.com/move. Your capital is at risk. Money Farm is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
Neil's band were good last night. I say good. But it was good seeing them doing their thing. I think he was really chuffed I was there. He knows things have been tough lately. That I haven't been getting out much. Or sleeping, really. That I'm worried about my job. And bringing in less money. The thing is, I might have cancer. But the most important thing is that I'm his brother.
A brother with cancer is still a brother. We're here to help you deal with money worries. Because life with cancer is still life, and we're here to help you live it. We are Macmillan Cancer Support.
When we're out and about, it's easy to eat more than we should. The thing is, those extra calories can creep up and are helping to make us overweight. So, if you want to eat a little healthier, just remember this simple tip. Aim for 400, 600, 600. That's around 400 calories for breakfast, 600 for lunch, and 600 for dinner. So when you're out and about this lunchtime, why not start by choosing a 600-calorie lunch? It's all part of a healthy, balanced diet of 2,000 calories for women and 2,500 calories for men each day. Because there's only one you.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
So Boris Johnson tells us this morning that tomorrow experts from the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons are coming to the UK to test samples of the nerve agent that was used in the poisoning attack in Salisbury. And there are some who would say, well, might it not have been better to get these people involved earlier and to have a slightly higher degree of certitude than we currently have about who really was behind this? Have the government done enough to provide you with evidence as to who it was? Now, I asked earlier, would somebody please, who has worked in or knows about airport security, get on the line? And Glenn has called in from Hull. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now, without wishing to, give away secrets that might threaten our security in the future, the question specifically was, if some of this nerve agent was in a suitcase, would the scanners at either British or other international airports be likely to pick it up?
Well, to put you in the picture, all airports work to a standard.
Yep.
And so every airport is the same, and there are 3 levels of security. And every X-ray machine is designed to pick up organic product. So if it was in a large enough amount, not sprayed, it would pick it up.
So if this was, Glenn, if this was in a relatively tiny amount, being a very potent nerve agent, if it was a tiny amount of, say, powder, would that really get picked up?
Yes, because it displays in different colours on the screen.
Oh.
So it's organic. It will see that there's something there, and they would direct it to the next security.
Well, not only, Glenn, have you enlightened us as to how this works, you've made us all feel a bit safer, actually, this morning. So then, logically then, from what you're saying, would you consider it unlikely that the story that it was put into a suitcase in Moscow was true?
Well, to give you an idea, if it was the size of a Smartie, maybe they would ignore it. As I say, there are 3 different levels, so it's an automatic system. So the first level says, oh, it's okay. Or it says, no, there's something wrong. It goes to the second level. And then if it doesn't pass the second level, it goes to a third level inspection.
Right. But the basic fact is that airport scanners would pick this up, and that's the point that you've made on this call, and it's a very...
Yeah, of course, yeah.
No, Glenn, thank you.
They also have different scanners that pick up radiation. So how that other guy got...
that was polonium, wasn't it?
Polonium, yeah, we'll pick that up as well.
Glenn, it all looks to me that maybe these pieces of evidence do point to diplomatic bags. That maybe we've uncovered something here that maybe does point more directly towards it being somebody associated directly with the Russian administration. I don't know. Fascinating.
Well, I was working in that section, and as soon as someone like that comes through, we have to move away.
Yes.
We're not allowed to be in that area.
So the diplomatic bag Glenn, is still sacrosanct, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Glenn, great phone call. Thank you. Well, wasn't that interesting, folks? That was really, really interesting. I mean, I had no idea that our airport scanners were quite as sophisticated as that. That was really, really fascinating. So could it be a theory I've not read anywhere, but could it be the diplomatic bag that has been used? And is that perhaps an even better reason for getting rid of 23? Why 23, I don't know, but 23 diplomats. As I say, I believe that it was a Russian actor. I just find it extraordinary that anybody saying, can we have a bit more proof, please, is almost being shouted down as if they're sided with the enemy. Peter on Twitter says, in the best traditions of the KGB, spread as much propaganda and conspiracy theories as you can so that people start doubting everything. Well, maybe you could argue that's what the Russian ambassador to the European Union was doing this morning by talking about Porton Down, and could the agent have come from there? Pete on Facebook says, an active nerve agent was not in the suitcase. If there was any suspicion, then whole airports will have to be closed down, perhaps for weeks. OK, well, somebody else there backing up the idea that it would not have come through a suitcase because it would have been discovered. Gary is a first-time caller to this show. He lives in Weybridge in Surrey. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. I find this whole question very interesting, and the issue that I'd like to look at is who benefits. I can't see any gain to Putin right now from this rather clumsy activity. And it's rather obvious. But there are actors in the US who have been pushing an anti-Russia narrative for some time, who have got skin in the game to keep Russia front of news. And just as the House Intelligence Committee rules that there's no case against Trump collusion with Russia, all of a sudden this pops up, and it's remarkably convenient. It doesn't really help Mrs. May in what she's got on her plate at the moment.
Well, actually, Gary, it does a little bit, doesn't it?
I don't think so. She's got enough to deal with Brexit. She's got
When did you... Now, come on, Gary. When did you see this Prime Minister, one, smile, genuinely smile, and two, fist bump people in the crowd and do selfies?
Well, the point is that if it helps her, it's purely as a distraction and a deflection. And you end up with another point, which is that Boris Johnson also colluded on the Steele dossier in its production with the anti-Trump campaign. So there's a whole question of who is behind this. I have no doubt it was done through the form of a diplomatic bag. The question is, whose diplomatic bag was it carried in?
Yeah, no, okay, Gary. Well, you know, you are right to say that those that can't reconcile themselves with the 45th President of the USA, Donald, being in the White House, and those who hate Brexit want Russia to be there as the evil enemy. So you could say that, you know, the more anti-Russia all of the narrative is, the better. But in terms,
what's to gain?
So you're really suggesting, Gary, that this could be a third country that has interfered here, in your opinion?
I could think that there's one country in particular that has interfered in elections across Europe and in Israel, and it's not called Russia; it's called the United States. And it's not the administration, but rather the forces aligned to Comey and Hillary and Rosenstein.
The ones that Trump's at war with at the moment, yeah.
Or at war with Trump, I should say.
Gary, fascinating. Thank you. I'm going to move to Reading to Chris, another first-time caller to this show. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, and I've got great respect for you for everything that you've done, so I thought I'd get that in.
That's very sweet of you, Chris. Very sweet of you. So what do you think?
I think it suits the establishment to make Russia the bogeyman, and similar to what the guy just was saying. I mean, if you look at the establishment, how they've lied when they need to lie or want to lie with the Iraq war, Brexit. And I think we've forgotten, you know, people make out that this country is whiter than white. There was a guy called David Kelly.
Yep.
I think people have forgotten about him. And a few others. And what that guy was just saying, I mean, I looked, the guy himself who's been poisoned and his daughter, he was actually connected with the MI5 agent who was involved in the Trump dossier.
Christopher Steele. That's right.
Yes, that's right. He was
Christopher Steele, who produced the Trump document, and it turned out later was actually paid quite a bit of money for doing all of this. But yes, you're right, there was a connection.
And, you know, I think I just don't trust the forces in this, certain forces in this country or America, quite honestly.
Chris, did you always feel like this, or is this something that, you know, has your mind changed on this in the last 10 years or so?
Well, since the Iraq War, definitely.
Since the Iraq War, yeah.
And since certain things like Jimmy Savile and that sort of thing, you just think, no, this isn't.
Chris,
a miss.
I have to tell you, Chris, I genuinely believe that there are millions of people like you out there now in this country. So great is the breakdown of trust in our career, professional, political class. I really do.
Absolutely. I mean, what makes me laugh is you've got liberals. And the Liberals, years ago, used to be people for peace and this, that and the other.
There's one of them ringing you now, Chris.
You're absolutely right. You're psychic, mate. You're absolutely psychic.
Chris, I've got to move on. Thank you for the call. And Chris, a breakdown of trust, there's plenty of it. More breaking news. The results of tests by the independent investigators from the Organisation from the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons on the samples of nerve agent used in Salisbury. They're expected the test to take a minimum of 2 weeks. The Foreign Office have just told us. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 10:45.
This is LBC.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast has been talking about the importance of decision-making in business. He was joined by Joe Harris, Managing Director of Business Banking at Lloyds Bank, to discuss it further.
I think if you're a business, a decision that may seem quite minor can actually have a huge knock-on impact for your success.
Go to lbc.co.uk to find out more about decision-making in business and for a chance to win an iPad, thanks to Lloyds Bank. When you need to move fast, we're by your side. And LBC.
When we're out and about, it's easy to eat more than we should. The thing is, those extra calories can creep up and are helping to make us overweight. So, if you want to eat a little healthier, just remember this simple tip. Aim for 400, 600, 600. That's around 400 calories for breakfast, 600 for lunch and 600 for dinner. So when you're out and about this lunchtime, why not start by choosing a 600 calorie lunch? It's all part of a healthy, balanced diet of 2,000 calories for women and 2,500 calories for men each day. Because there's only one you.
Hurry into Homebase for Crown 5 litre standard coloured emulsion. Was £25, now only £18. Offer ends Monday. Homebase, always your home, always low prices. Excludes clearance outlets.
He's on the home stretch. Wait, he stopped. Extraordinary. He's having a picnic on the side of the track.
Is the performance of your cash ISA a bit of a disappointment? At Money Farm, our experts can match you with an investment ISA that could give your money the chance to perform better. And right now, we'll look after your full ISA allowance free of management fees for a year if you transfer over £10,000. You have one life. Invest wisely. Visit moneyfarm.com/move. Your capital is at risk. Money Farm is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
When most people think of 3D, they think of movies, games, or TV. At Darwood and Tanner, we think of it as a process of determining the shape and volume of your jawline in three-dimensional space, allowing us to create the perfect dental implant solution for you. To be amazed at the transformational effect of Darwood and Tanner dental implants, visit darwoodandtanner.co.uk. Darwood and Tanner, obsessive about dental implant technology.
What's the smart way to experience Cork? Fly from London Heathrow up to 5 times a day with Aer Lingus and enjoy a warm Irish welcome the moment you step on board. Discover 5,000 years of history in Ireland's ancient East. Sample the best of Irish cuisine at Cork's English Market, or take in stunning ocean views along the wild Atlantic Way. Fares are from $52.99 each way as part of a return trip. Smart gets ready to explore Ireland. Smart flies Aer Lingus. Book now at aerlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
£1 could buy you a mouthful of lager, or about 14.5 chips. Or £1 could buy you a Thunderball ticket for a chance to win £500,000. Bit of a no-brainer, really. Thunderball, only from the National Lottery. For just £1, you could win £500,000. Why not play this Tuesday? Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
You know your 70s from your 80s, from your 90s, from your noughties.
Let's go.
But do you know your pension options? PensionWise is a service set up by the government to provide free, impartial guidance about your pension pot. If you're over 50, call 0800 138 1888 to book your free telephone or face-to-face appointment. PensionWise. Get to know your options.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Do we trust our government? Do we trust politicians? Do we think enough evidence has been provided to us by the government to say with certainty that Vladimir Putin was directly behind the spy poisoning scandal that took place in Salisbury? That is the question. And I, for one moment, don't doubt that it was a Russian actor. Whether it was sanctioned or not, I simply don't know. Paul says on Facebook, Russia is innocent until proven guilty. So far, the poison is Russian. But how did the poison get to the UK and who did it? Well, one potential idea that's been floated here this morning is that it'd be very, very difficult for this substance to get through any airport security, and therefore it could have come into the country via a diplomatic bag, a Russian bag. I said, but one caller said, oh, well, actually, this could be the deep state in America who want to prolong this battle, this new Cold War we've got with Russia. So theories abound. Deborah says, airport security is tight. I got stopped at Manchester Airport 10 years ago and my hand luggage was searched. They looked inside my shampoo bottle and I've never smoked or done drugs. Deborah, we believe you. Honestly, we do. Ash is calling from Exeter. Good morning, Ash.
Hello, mate. It's Essex, not Exeter, but that doesn't matter.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's my mistake. The thing is, Ash, the truth is, I probably now need to accept defeat and start wearing glasses, but I'm just too vain. Ash from Essex, good morning.
Morning, Nigel. This is... The question was asked on here the other day, I think it was James O'Brien asked, obviously, should we be right to knock Corbyn for, wanting more evidence? Now, I can't stand Corbyn personally. I don't trust the bloke, but I totally agree with him. The claims that Theresa May and the current government have been making, they wouldn't stand up in a court of law.
Nope. No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't, Ash. And I said to that caller earlier, I said, what if you were on a complex fraud trial? And the judge said, well, the balance of probabilities, actually, Jeff, is that you're guilty. I mean, that wouldn't be a very nice place to be, would it?
No, of course it wouldn't. And it wouldn't stand up in a court of law. And they can't expect us to just take that on the chin as their word is gospel. We all know we can't always check... I can't think of the word now. We can't always trust our security service, not just ours, but how many years did the CIA try and kill Castro and denied all knowledge of it?
Well, Ash, are you saying to me...
That worries me.
Ash, are you saying to me... And by the way, what part of Essex are you from?
Chelmsford.
Chelmsford. The county town of Essex.
County town.
Absolutely, with a cricket ground and all the rest of it. Are you... Not a very good side, but never mind. Ash, are you saying to me that you have a distrust of governments and our security agencies?
I just think that we should be careful in what we believe. Don't get me wrong, I agree with you. I think, chances are, it probably was Russian-backed, whether it be backed by Putin and the Kremlin or, someone going off on their own. But one's got to ask themselves, Scruple's been in this country a long time now. What does Putin gain from killing him now?
Well, I suppose the answer to that is a message that you can run but you can't hide. If you betray us, at some point we'll get back at you. And it could be, Ash, that the electors who are going to the polls today in Russia say, God, isn't that great? He's killed this traitor. Can you imagine if anybody that had betrayed this country was seen to have been taken out, living in a safe hideaway somewhere? Actually, I know what the tabloids would say. I know what Ash, I've got to move on. Great to speak to you. Hi, Nigel. The fist pump was requested by the people who wanted the picture with May. She is managing this incident well. Maybe the nerve agent came in by boat, where the same security does not exist. Lots of private yachts around, Martin from East Ham. Yes, Martin, there are lots of private yachts around, and there are over 100 ports in this country, and that's ports where goods come in of some, variety and kind. A lot of it's fish going out, whatever it may be. But coasts are a weak point. Of that, there's no doubt at all. And yes, I know that the fist bump was requested from May, but she was visiting the scene of a crime, and there are two people who we're told this morning are close to death in hospital. I would have thought there is a way of behaving appropriately, and I thought she looked a bit too joyous. Hey, that's just me. James is calling from Southampton, a first-time caller to this show. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Nigel. Forgive me, I'm a little nervous.
Well, I tell you what, just imagine, James, that we're having a cup of tea together or a pint,
very much look forward to
and you just happen to be on LBC. That's by the by. Has this government, James, provided you with enough evidence to say it was Putin what done it?
In a word, no. Just no.
Okay.
There are so many questions which have just not been answered, and there are so many points which are either being misrepresented or... I hate to say deliberately, but there's just so much confusion about it. As I told your researcher, I've basically become a bit of a Russifier over the past 8 years or so. I started learning about it at GCSE.
Okay.
I got hooked, and I went the extra mile to read up. I've even learned a little bit of the Russian language to try and learn what their own newspapers say and stuff.
Wow.
Language.
Wow. Well, I mean, listen, you know more than I do, so I'm all ears. I really am.
Okay. Well, first of all, this Agent Skripal, he was originally working for the GRU. He was caught, and he was sentenced to prison.
Yep.
If he was wanted to be killed, why wasn't he killed then?
Mm-hmm.
Then he was set free in an agent exchange program. Now, the world of spying is a very particular spiel. For all we know, he still was spying. So that's a question which hasn't been answered, and I'm not suggesting any conspiracies here, but we don't know the answer to that. I mean, he could have even been a triple agent being released on condition that he puts information back to the GRU or the SVR. So That's stage one. Stage two is who actually benefits. Why would you pick a if this was state-acted, probably the SVR, because the FSB is domestic. If the SVR did...
You're going into a lot of detail here, James, that others listening to this show won't understand.
Okay, the FSB is the equivalent of MI5, that's the Domestic Federal Security Service. The SVR is their kind of equivalent of MI6, which is a foreign intelligence service, and the GIU is the Military Intelligence Directorate, so they're kind of the equivalent of the US, the Department of Defense Intelligence Department, DID.
Okay, go on.
There's a lot of agencies there.
Yeah, there are.
Why would you pick a method which is so obviously state-acted? I mean, a nerve agent is not a small deal. If you wanted to kill this guy, why wouldn't you simply wait for him to walk home, stab him in the back as he walked in the street, and you could make it look like a mugging went wrong?
Or he falls under a tube train, or he hangs himself, or there are lots of other ways to do it. So James,
a way of killing someone.
James, tell me, who do you think, and you've studied this, you've spent the last 8 years studying this, who do you think is responsible for this?
When I say I've studied this, it's been on an amateur basis. It's not my job.
Well, I suspect that you've got a bit more knowledge of this than almost anybody else listening to this show this morning.
Well, I'm not sure who really benefits without going into a conspiracy theory, because at the moment May seems to be trying to get a bit of a backbone and trying to stand up for herself, but then that goes into a conspiracy theorist. Did she order it? You just don't know. I'm not saying she did.
No.
It's like maybe she's just using the situation to her advantage. I don't know. There's just so many things we don't know.
All right, so basically, James, it's up in the air.
Yeah, and indeed there's also questions about legality as well. Under the OPCW, Russia officially has no more chemical weapons. So why hasn't that been mentioned? The last chemical weapon in Russia was destroyed, I think, 3 months ago.
Well, there was talk.
The supervision of the head of the OPCW.
There was talk, wasn't there, from a journalist who writes for the Irish Times, who was the Moscow correspondent back after the wall came down, that actually, circa 1993, all sorts of things got stolen and went missing, and nerve agent being taken then was possible. James, I thank you for your call. I thank you for your thoughts. I thank you for overcoming your nervousness and educating us about a lot to do with the Russian intelligence agencies. Thank you. Well, it is a big question. There is a huge consensus that's emerged around this. Maybe we should, just to persuade us one more time, listen to Gavin Williamson, our Defence Secretary, because he seemed to be absolutely certain.
Frankly, Russia should go away. It should shut up.
And they wonder why we're sceptical about our political class. Well, there we are. So, as we head into the next few days, we'll find out, will we not? This strong leader, Theresa May, she may need to be very tough over the course of the next few days. David Davis is on his way to Brussels today. A crucial summit coming up on Thursday. All 28 heads of government will be there in the room with, of course, Juncker and Barnier. And this on a day when there's a call for Brexit to be delayed to give the UK more time for a better deal. There promises to be a furious row between pro-Remain and pro-Leave MPs who are all on the same committee. I wonder, would you welcome an extended transition period? Would you like to see Article 50 delayed? Call me on 034 560 60 973. Tweet Farage and LBC at LBC. Watch us on Facebook, and we'll be live from London next.
On FM, online, on your mobile, and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock, Boris Johnson says experts from the chemical watchdog will test samples of the nerve agent used in Salisbury. The Foreign Secretary confirms chemists from the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons will arrive in London tomorrow, with the tests expected to take at least 2 weeks to complete. It's as Mr Johnson describes Russia's expulsion of 23 British diplomats as futile. Lord Ricketts, a former UK National Security Advisor, has told LBC that is the correct assessment.
The Russian response was frankly scrambling for, something not very convincing, and I think the right way ahead now is for the British to really go after that hot money which has been in London without sufficient control on it.
It says Tony Blair is backing the government over its handling of the nerve agent attack in Salisbury. The former Labour Prime Minister says the government has done the right thing, while former Conservative Chancellor George Osborne says claims of Russian interference on British soil are staggering, adding no state can tolerate that. In other headlines this hour, heavy snow is causing difficult driving conditions with up to 10 inches expected to fall in places. Snowploughs are already being used on the M62, while vehicles are stuck on roads in Lincolnshire, Greater Manchester and on the A3 near Hindhead Tunnel in Surrey. Amber and yellow warnings for snow and ice cover the UK, with the heaviest of snowfall forecast for the southwest of England and South Wales. Let's cross to LBC's reporters in the worst affected areas so far this morning, starting with Tom Phipps in Cardiff.
The snow is really coming down with blizzard conditions at the moment. The Met Office is warning as much as 9 or 10 inches of snow could fall on higher ground for the second time this month.
I'm Patrick Hildred in the east of England, where stormy winds have been battering the Norfolk coast, and in the village of Hemsby, 10 homes have been evacuated because of coastal erosion, which means they're in danger of falling into the sea. Hemsby Lifeboat have urged people not to come and check out the scene because it's dangerous.
Divisions have emerged in a powerful Commons committee after Brexit supporters refused to back a report recommending extending the transitional period. Conservative and Democratic Unionist MPs have forced the Exiting the EU committee to publish rival recommendations within the official text that was backed by the majority of members. But its chair, Benn, has given LBC this reassurance.
This is not about overturning the result of the referendum. It's not about stopping us from leaving. It's about trying to get the best possible deal. So this is a sensible, measured proposal to deal with the situation in which there's lots of stuff that hasn't yet been agreed.
And Nigel will be leading Britain's conversation on that story next. A number of people have been injured after a car was driven into a marquee at a nightclub in Gravesend. Kent police are questioning a man on suspicion of attempted murder. Great Britain have met their medal target at the Winter Paralympics. They've won 2 on the final day in South Korea. LBC weather: prolonged snowfall across the west and southwest, continuing over the north, easing in the south, bitterly cold everywhere else, a high of 2 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Philip Chryssikos.
This is a starter horn. This is 5,000 women in pink. This is a mudslide. This is a grandmother walking a 5K.
Absolutely loving it.
This is beating cancer. This is Cancer Research UK's Race for Life in partnership with Tesco. Run, jog or walk. Sign up right now at raceforlife.org.
LBC Travel, looking first at what's happening on the A40 in West London. The road is still closed westbound between the Target roundabout and the Polish War Memorial. That's because of an accident. Diversion has been set up. On the North Circular Road, there's still one lane blocked on the northbound carriageway at Ealing Common. That's due to an accident involving a car, which is causing queues. And in central London, Piccadilly is closed eastbound from Hyde Park Corner to just before Green Park Station. That's because of the St Patrick's Day Parade, which is going to start at around noon. There will be some more closures going in along Piccadilly, Pall Mall, Shaftesbury Avenue and Haymarket. On the A31 in Surrey, the road has been closed eastbound between the Sunoffer Aldershot and the Hogsback Junction at Guildford because of the snow. LBC Travel, I'm Ross Powell.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Serious, though, the whole situation with Russia is, and certainly the events that took place in Salisbury. For some of you, it might have provided welcome relief, because it's virtually been a Brexit-free week across our news media agendas. That's all going to change. David Davis is heading off on Eurostar today to get ready for early morning meetings in Brussels. The big event is coming up on Thursday evening, and that is when the 28 heads of government will be together in the room with, of course, the real bosses, the ones that haven't been voted for, Mr Barnier and Mr Juncker, and the idea is that we agree this week to a transition deal. Now, the talk was that transition deal would go on for 21 months. So here's the timetable. We are due to leave the European Union when Article 50 expires, and that happens at midnight on March the 29th next year. And then what the government wants and appears to have agreed in principle is a 21-month implementation period or transition period, choose whichever language you prefer, which would take us through until the end of 2020. That is what should be agreed this week. I personally don't want to have a transition period. I'd have thought the 2 years we have for Article 50 was plenty, but hey, that's life. But the committee, which is the one for exiting the EU, has published a report overnight saying that the UK should consider extending the transition period. Some members have disowned this official paper and published their own alternative, but Labour MP Hilary Benn, who heads the committee, spoke to LBC's Andrew Castle earlier on this morning.
That is absolutely not the case. Look, I voted for the Article 50 legislation, although I campaigned for Remain because I'm a Democrat and I accept the outcome of the referendum. This is not about that. This is a sober, serious, considered report drawing on the evidence that we've taken.
Well, what he really wants to do, he wants to extend the transition period, I think, until the next general election, where he hopes that Jeremy Corbyn will become Prime Minister, and Jeremy Corbyn, whatever his personal views on the European Union have been, is now completely held hostage by the Blairites that are there in the House of Commons. If that was to happen, I think we would effectively stay part of the customs union and the single market. We, in effect, might have left the Treaty of Rome, but it would be Brexit in name only. I don't trust the motives, actually, of any of these MPs who say we respect the result of the referendum, but what they really mean is we don't respect it one little bit. We'll do all we can to water down, delay, or stop Brexit from happening. That's my view. And somebody else who rather agrees with that point of view and is a member of that committee is Conservative Member of Parliament for Wellingborough, arch Brexiteer Peter Bone, who I spoke to this morning.
I'm afraid the committee has a substantial number of, to call them Remainers, ultra-Remainers who want to change the referendum result, and they do everything they can to delay the process in the hope that somehow or other they'll stop Brexit. And I have to say, I think I deserve a medal to be on that committee, to listen to the Remainers go on and on and on about complete rubbish is amazing.
I tell you what, Peter, I'm ahead of you in that queue because I've had 19 years in the European Parliament being surrounded by these people. But I mean, Mrs May heads out to Brussels on Thursday. It's a key summit. What do you want to see come from that?
Well, we've got this implementation period, which I'm not really think it's necessary, but we're going to have it. It's going to be shortened. So rather than the Remainers on my committee, which want a lengthened one, it's actually going to be shortened. And we just got to crack on. It's only now just over a year until we come out. Can't wait for that. And if we can't get an implementation period, so what? We'll come out on WTO rules, and that's no bad thing.
Well, you may say that, but I don't think the Prime Minister thinks that position would be acceptable. I mean, ultimately, Peter, she is going to come back to the House of Commons with a deal. There is going to be a vote that takes place in October, November this year that will be, in terms of Parliament's history, one of the biggest votes ever, given that Gina Miller won that case at the Supreme Court, and it has to be a meaningful vote. My question is, does Hilary Benn today represent a point of view that could have a majority in Parliament?
Yes, he could, and there are many Labour MPs and Remainers, and a few on my side. But as I understand it, if we reject the deal that's put forward by Mrs May, then we come out with no deal. So from that point of view, it doesn't really matter. So I think all these Remainers are jumping up and down saying we can have a meaningful vote. Well, you either accept the deal that Mrs May negotiates, which will be the best she can get for the country, or we don't have a deal. So from that point of view, I'm slightly relaxed.
If there was a majority that rejected the deal, I put it to you, there'd be a majority in favour of having a second referendum.
Well, I'm not sure a second referendum isn't... But what would worry me, to be honest, is if we lost the vote on the deal, would that require a general election? That might be the issue. And, of course, then if a general election and Corbyn got in, well, goodness knows what would happen to the country, but Brexit would sail away and not happen. So that would be, I think, probably my worry about losing the vote, that it might participate in general election.
So a loss of the vote. So if I'm Theresa May and I lose this crucial vote, the only way I can avoid a general election, particularly if the polls say I'm going to lose, is to offer a second referendum. I still put it to you, Peter Bone, and I don't want to see this, but unless Parliament gets behind whatever deal the Prime Minister does, a second referendum is on the cards.
I don't think so. Certainly Mrs May would never support a second referendum. And we are talking lots of hypotheticals. I actually think what's going to happen is, because the EU knows it's massively in their commercial interest to do a deal. I mean, that's the thing you've got to remember. You've got to overcome their sort of political bias. But £80 billion a year, they sell more to us than we to them, so they must want to do a deal. So there's lots to watch, there's lots to fight for. But at the moment, I still think we're on course for Mrs May to deliver a very good Brexit, in which case we shall carry her through the streets of Wellingborough and build a statue to her.
Well, I have to say, on balance, I think Mrs May will just about win that final vote in the House of Commons. I do think we're on track to leave the Treaty of Rome on the 29th of March next year. I suspect the Brexit we get will be one that is quite heavily watered down from what a lot of people who voted Brexit thought they were going to get, taking back control of our fisheries, etc. I don't see any of that happening in the short term. I'm not even a fan of the transition period at all. I've always said and feared through LBC that what would happen is it would get extended up until the next general election. So I'm going to ask you this morning, do you agree with Hilary Benn? Do you want to see the transition period extended, probably up until the next general election, or would that effectively be an attempt to betray the Brexit vote? So let me know what you think on that. You can call 0345 6060 973. You can text to 84850. You can tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and you can watch us on Facebook and comment there too. Keith is my first caller on this subject, and he's from Stoke Newington. Hi, Keith.
Oh, yes. Hello, Nigel. Good morning. Yes, I totally agree with you. This is a device to facilitate a delay to the Brexit issue, and it's going to facilitate the EU to come up or devise more reasons why the delay should occur. And that is unreasonable, and we shouldn't accept it at all. But the other point I want to make as well is that Theresa, regarding the last conversation, Theresa May stood up very strongly to the Russians, showing she could do it. And my question is, why isn't she doing the same with the EU situation? Why is she being weak with them?
Well, I think Peter Hitchens answered that about an hour ago on this programme by saying it's quite easy to stand up to sort of a foreign government that in some ways is a little bit abstract, as opposed to worrying about your parliamentary majority, having constant pressure put on you by big businesses and big banks and big donors. So I guess the situation is different. But Keith, I think the one thing, the biggest single criticism of Theresa May has been that she's not a leader. She doesn't have that leadership ability. And I guess many would say that she's shown a bit of leadership over the course of the last few days. Keith, let's hope she takes that spirit with her to Brussels. I'd love to see her say to Barnier and Juncker, look, I want to have a sensible conversation, but there's a limit the amount of abuse and bullying we're going to put up with from unelected bureaucrats like you. Do you know what, Keith? If she said that at a press conference in Brussels, the country would say, wow!
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. She would do a Thatcherite, wouldn't she?
Well, in fact, it would be even greater than Margaret Thatcher coming back in 1984 from the Fontainebleau conference, having won us a rebate. That was important, but this is now crucial. It's the biggest political issue of our lifetimes.
Yes, I agree.
And she's losing a lot of confidence from Brexit voters.
Because she's being weak.
Yeah.
She mustn't.
Do you think, Keith, that a new Theresa May has emerged from that market square in Salisbury, and she's going to go sock it to them on Thursday?
Yeah, I don't well hope so. It may be the seed of a change in her attitude. Let's hope it is. Well,
let's see. Keith, I thank you. Nigel, I didn't vote for any kind of Brexit. I voted for independence. The word Brexit has many flavours. Independence means what it says Graham. Well, Graham, I was the leader, of course, of the UK Independence Party. So difficult for me to disagree with that, but I'm sure there are lots of you who will come on the phone and tell me why the transition period needs to be longer. Is it about lorries and Dover? Are there real technical reasons why this ought to be suspended? You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, and the time is now 11:15.
Sheila Fogarty, Monday to Friday from 1 p.m.
I'm not sure we are squeezing people out of the jobs market because we've got loads of vacancies.
They cannot afford to buy a house on £7 an hour.
And you don't think it's got anything to do with austerity, with the financial crash, or you don't think it's got anything to do with that? It's the fault of foreigners.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
TfL and the Mayor of London are growing the capital's fleet of electric and hybrid buses. Their significantly lower emissions are helping to bring cleaner air to London. Great news for, well, basically anything that breathes when you think about it. For more information, search TfL improvements. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
GCSEs, A-levels.
For exam success without the stress, only one name stands out. Justin Craig. A Justin Craig Easter course kickstarts revision, consolidates knowledge, boosts confidence and improves exam technique. With over 30 years' experience, Justin Craig has helped more than 100,000 students secure their university place. For Easter revision course details, visit justincraig.ac.uk. Justin Craig, just in time.
Everyone who comes to TDC Smile in a Day has a story to tell.
I couldn't eat a baguette or fruit, an apple.
We gave John dental implants and natural-looking fixed teeth in just one day.
What I didn't want was to have teeth taken out and then have to wear dentures.
Around 3 months later, we exchanged his fixed teeth for his final permanent set. To see life-changing before and after pictures and independent patient reviews, visit smileinaday.co.uk or call TDC Harley Street on 0203 7334 986.
Take the step because it's life-changing.
0203 7334 986.
When we're out and about, it's easy to eat more than we should. The thing is, those extra calories can creep up and are helping to make us overweight. So, if you want to eat a little healthier, just remember this simple tip. Aim for 400, 600, 600. That's around 400 calories for breakfast, 600 for lunch and 600 for dinner. So when you're out and about this lunchtime, why not start by choosing a 600-calorie lunch? It's all part of a healthy, balanced diet of 2,000 calories for women and 2,500 calories for men each day. Because there's only one you.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast was joined by Alpro dietitian Kate Arthur to talk about whether plant-based diets can be good for you and for the environment.
So as a nation, we're just not eating enough fibre. We need around 30 grams a day, and most people eat about 18 grams a day. There's a real fibre gap there, so we need to encourage people to eat more of those whole grains, beans and pulses to get their fibre.
Go to lbc.co.uk to find out more and for a chance to win a cooking weekend away with Alpro and LBC.
Oak Furnitureland's March clearance must end Sunday. With solid hardwood coffee tables from only $199, you don't want to miss out. Hurry in a store near you while stocks last.
The family member who was concerned. The neighbour who felt uneasy. The teacher who was worried. The coach who noticed at practice. And you. It's up to all of us to keep children safe. If you think a child may be at risk, report it to your local council, who can provide the support a child may need. If you think it, report it. Visit gov.uk/tackle child abuse to find out how. And together, we can tackle child abuse.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC, The Nigel Farage Show.
It's a very snowy Sunday morning in many parts of the country, in the West Country and South Wales being particularly hard hit at this moment in time, and a lot of disappointed people at Heathrow Airport and elsewhere today. We will, in 10 minutes' time, be getting John Ketley on the line to give us a sort of update as to how long. Now, the last one was called The Beast from the East. I'm told this is called the Mini Beast because it won't last quite as long, but John Ketley will bring us fully up to speed. So the arguments for extending transition, which we heard earlier on from Hilary Benn, a lot of it is technical. A lot of it is to do with borders. It's to do with, well, you know, if you're outside the customs union and there are tariffs applicable, there needs to be some measuring of what lorries come in, what lorries go out, and what goods they've got on them. Because, but by the way, do bear in mind, we do actually trade with the rest of the world as well, and we do seem to manage, but hey. But I can see where the argument goes, because in the pro-Remain Mail on Sunday, Brexit's 2-minute border bombshell, which shows that if every lorry took 2 minutes longer to get through that tunnel at Folkestone or on the ferries at Dover, that actually the traffic would be backed up almost all the way to Ashford, and this would go on for the next 10, 20, 100,000 years. I don't know, but it would be a disaster, and this is really being used as an argument for not just extending the transition period, but for staying part of a customs union of some kind. And they say here, you don't believe us? Then check out Norway's smart border with Sweden. Right, so that was the pro-Remain Mail on Sunday. Go to the pro-Leave Sunday Telegraph. Could this Scandinavian smart border be a blueprint for Britain's post-EU trade, where they explain that actually, you know, goods and services and transport moves between Canada and Sweden fairly easily. And I could point you to Detroit, you know, that border with Canada, where there are quite a lot of goods that are not under NAFTA, so there are tariffs payable. And how do they do it? Well, they do it with number plate recognition, which, of course, we already have in many parts of this country. Anyone driving a motor car into London at certain or most times of the week is liable to pay congestion charge. And how does it work there? Well, the Canadians taking stuff into America or the Americans taking stuff into Canada have to fill out half an hour before they cross an online form saying the goods that they've got. And this happens already. We do a vast amount of trade with China, all right? But we don't check the contents of every single Chinese container. There has to actually be an element of trust to make things work. And that happens with our trade with China. And it'll happen, in my view, on the Irish border. But these are many of the technical arguments that are used for transition existing in the first place and now for it being extended. And I'm not pretending there isn't a lot to do. You know, we've been part of this EU regime, you know, for 45 years. So there is a lot to do. I personally never wanted transition in the first place. But let's go to Northern Ireland. Let's go to Aaron, who was a Remain voter. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, Nigel. How are you?
I'm well. So you are literally on the front line of the whole Brexit debate there.
I'm practically next to one of the bordering lines of Northern Ireland.
Okay, so whereabouts are you, Aaron?
Lumma Valley. It's in the northwest. It's just 19 miles outside of Derry, Londonderry, so it is.
Okay.
And that's a bordering city, so it is.
Yeah. So clearly, I mean, one thing, Aaron, that always struck me was, you know, whenever I talk to my friends in the DUP, you know, the last thing they want is a return to the bad old days and hard borders and soldiers with guns. When I was in Dublin recently, you know, I speak to people in Dublin, and nobody wants a return to the bad old days and hard borders and soldiers with guns. It's almost as if, Aaron, to me, it's sort of Monsieur Barnier that's made this a bigger problem than it needs to be.
Well, no, it's as much as you would say you're friends with the DUP are after a hard border. They always have been, which is unfortunate, but it's true they may say otherwise. But as recently it came out over certain scandals within Northern Ireland, we have found out that a lot of meetings for certain meetings, minutes haven't actually been kept. So we don't really know exactly what's been said behind closed doors because they didn't keep meetings to frustrate freedom of information, and because the DUP and Sinn Féin are sensitive to criticism, which doesn't really paint us in much of a nice light, or them, to be fair.
Now, Aaron, what I'm told is that the really big issue with this border are products like milk and beef, that they're the ones that crisscross that border on a regular basis.
Yes.
So isn't there a common sense solution here? You know, don't we ask our friends in the EU, and don't we ask the World Trade Organization, perhaps in Switzerland, what about there being made some special exemptions in the case of Ireland so that Brexit doesn't wreak huge damage on the agricultural sector of Ireland? Wouldn't that be a sort of common sense way of dealing with this?
See, that has been approached and that has been brought up because there is a lot of farmland as well that's actually on the border.
Yeah.
There's a house that's on the border. The the front of the house is in the North and the back of the house is in the Republic. It's a really...
Is that really true?
It is, yeah. There is an actual house.
Wow.
I think it's in County Down, where the north of the house is in County Down and the back of the house is in the Republic County.
Given Aaron, look, whatever happens here, these are not just complex, but actually quite emotive arguments when it comes to Northern Ireland. And they've been, in my view, made more emotive by the European Commission than they need to be. But do you, as a Remainer, someone living close to the border, do you have a sympathy with Hilary Benn when he asks for the transition period to be extended?
Well, yeah, it's because our border has been really a sticking point for negotiations whenever they're going. There's been plans suggested, and it's unfortunately the DUP have blocked them, was talking about Northern Ireland staying within the single market, along with the Republic, obviously.
Well, what about the Republic leaving the European Union? I mean, it's not doing them much good these days, is it?
But it's up to the Republic if they want to stay in the EU or not. You know, as much as this is one country, it's divided into two. It's Northern Ireland and the Republic. I voted to remain for the obvious reasons that I thought it would be best for us to remain. But whenever the vote came out and we were saying to leave, you know, I accepted that. It was a democratic will. But like I said, your researcher, when it came down to it, it was England and Wales that unanimously voted to leave, and Scotland and Northern Ireland voted to remain. Now, I'm not pushing for a second referendum, even though I thought that the vote at the end of it was very close. It was very close, to be fair. But I accept the fact that we're leaving the EU, but I think that our representatives here need to be doing more for the people instead of just for their hardline voter base.
Aaron, how long... You see, now, I said at the top of the hour, perhaps somewhat cynically, that I don't believe Hilary Benn respects the referendum result at all, and I think he wants to extend transition to the next general election, hoping that Corbyn wins and we stay effectively part of the single market and the customs union. How long do you think that transition period should be extended for?
I think the transition period should just be extended until, if our border can be sorted out before the actual date that we leave, happy days. But we've gone the last 15 months now without an actual government in this country. So I don't actually know how long would be. I don't know personally myself. I wouldn't be able to say how long a transition period would be, because at the moment we don't even have a government.
No, Stormont is dormant, isn't it? As you say, there is no government there.
No.
Aaron, I understand what you're saying. I understand the sensitivities. I just worry that the argument for extending, why not extend it for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or forever, or why not just forget we ever left the single market in the first place? That's my problem. Aaron, I thank you very much indeed. I'm going to run to Pete, who's calling from Aylesbury. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Nigel. Good goodness, I'm through to the man himself. Transition, what does it mean to me? Transition means we're going from one place to another. If we have a transition period, we're going absolutely nowhere until the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day. So it's a complete and utter waste of time. Why can't there be some kind of impetus behind what works in cross-border situation? Why can't the situation between Canada and America? You mentioned lorries crossing the border.
Yeah.
People go out for a night out from Canada to the States and then back again with no hassle at all. If the people of Northern Ireland, I was listening to what Aaron was saying, he seems quite fearful of the problems that could arise from this. I don't think the DUP will be against this.
Nor do I. Do you know what? Nor do I. But I wanted to listen to what Aaron had to say, because, you know, I do understand he's living near the border. There's a horrible history. So this, but Pete, I actually blame the European Commission for stirring this up, and Blair saying the Good Friday Agreement could be under threat. I mean, they're all doing this deliberately.
And Benn's dad's turning in his grave.
What? Well, Tony Benn was vehemently opposed to membership of the European Union because he believed in democracy, and he was a strong patriot. He told me that to my very face. He believed in the country, and he even flew Spitfires in, I think, 1944, 45. And yeah, he would be one suspects.
He would be a Farage of the past, wouldn't he? Really?
Well, I don't know about that. Pete, we didn't vote for transition, did we?
But please, do what you can to get Richard Tice and your mates to really play up the ease of transition border-wise.
Yep.
Across the Great Lakes area, let everybody here know how damned easy it is over there to do this without having machine guns on the post.
All you need is the political will, Pete. I thank you. And those that disagree with Pete, call 0345 6060 973. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 11:30, and time for the news with Philip Chrysikos.
The Foreign Secretary says representatives from the global chemical weapons watchdog will arrive in London tomorrow to test samples of the substance used in Salisbury. The confirmation from Boris Johnson comes as former Labour Prime Minister Tony Blair and former Conservative Chancellor George Osborne back the government's handling of the nerve agent attack. Heavy snowfall has led to more than 100 flights being cancelled, while treacherous conditions have led to accidents on roads and motorways. In Norfolk, 10 clifftop homes have been evacuated over concerns the wintry weather could cause them to fall into the sea. Across the southwest of England and South Wales, accumulations of up to 10 inches of snow is expected. Turkey's president says his forces and Syrian opposition fighters have seized control of the city of Afrin from Kurdish militants. It's been the target of a near 2-month offensive. LBC weather: prolonged snowfall across the west and southwest, continuing over the north, easing in the south, bitterly cold everywhere else, a high of 2 degrees.
LBC Travel starting with some good news at Northolt in West London. The A40 has just reopened between the Target roundabout and the Polish War Memorial, but there are still westbound queues for going back to the Greenford flyover. If you're heading onto the North Circular Road, there's a lane block northbound at Ealing Common. That's because of an accident. The weather is causing some problems this morning for drivers. In Surrey, the A3 is closed eastbound from the Aldershot turn-off to the Hogsback Junction at Guildford because of the snow, and the Heathrow Connect train service is suspended because of the poor weather. The runways at Heathrow and Gatwick are open, but both airports are asking passengers to check their flight status before travelling. LBC Travel, I'm Ross Powell.
This is LBC.
It could be nothing.
But I notice she's been flinching when someone comes near her.
And the other day I saw
these bruises on her arms.
I know kids get knocks and scrapes.
But when I asked her about it,
she just kept changing her mind about what happened.
We all have a role to play in keeping children safe. If you think a child may be at risk, report it to your local council who can provide support. Child abuse. If you think it, report it. Find out how at gov.uk/tacklecHildAbuse.
Discover Britain's best places to live in the Sunday Times. Whether you're looking for bustling nightlife in Notting Hill or the quiet life in Totnes, great schools in Edinburgh or great views in Falmouth. Whatever the reason, don't move till you've read our 48-page magazine in association with Habito, only in the Sunday Times this weekend.
At the third stroke, the time sponsored by Cunard will be any time you like. Time to stop. Time to relax. Time to indulge. Time to love. Showtime! Time for a voyage with Cunard.
When we're out and about, it's easy to eat more than we should. The thing is, those extra calories can creep up and are helping to make us overweight. So, if you want to eat a little healthier, just remember this simple tip. Aim for 400, 600, 600. That's around 400 calories for breakfast, 600 for lunch, and 600 for dinner. So when you're out and about this lunchtime, why not start by choosing a 600-calorie lunch? It's all part of a healthy, balanced diet of 2,000 calories for women and 2,500 calories for men each day. Because there's only one you.
Architects Jane and Amy from Poulsome Middlehurst know how important it is to pay their staff accurately and on time.
Sage is easy to use. It guides you through the process. It really makes it quicker, I guess, to complete that side of the business. Sage frees us up so that we can concentrate on the work that we love.
Accounting, payroll and payments. Sage Business Cloud takes care of it all. Visit sage.com/get started. Be Sage. Build on.
Range Rover Evoque is at home at the city's most stylish addresses and in the countryside's wildest destinations. It can cross continents and take 5 friends to the theatre, and it might even save you money. Buy and register any new Evoque before April the 1st and you'll avoid the rise in vehicle excise duty. You won't just beat the tax increase, you'll drive away with a brand new registration plate. Range Rover Evoque from just £30,760 subject to availability. Land Rover, above and beyond.
You know you're Baroque from your rock, from your contemporary jazz, from your German underground progressive minimal techno. But do you know your pension options? PensionWise is a service set up by the government to provide free, impartial guidance about your pension pot. If you're over 50, call 0800 138 1888 to book your free telephone or face-to-face appointment. PensionWise. Get to know your options.
The Nigel Farage Show. Text 84850.
Hilary Benn and a number of MPs who were part of the exiting the EU committee want the transition period to be extended. The reasons given are chiefly technical. They're to do with lorries going in and out through Dover and solving the Irish border. But I'm asking, do you want this transition period extended, or do you see it, frankly, as a watering down, if not even a betrayal of Brexit? But before I get there, big story in The Observer today, a very arresting picture of a guy called Christopher Wildey with orange-dyed hair and a nose ring, which is a distraction from the story in some ways. And the story is about a firm called Cambridge Analytica. And it is a complicated story, but basically yesterday, Facebook suspended Cambridge Analytica from using their products. Why? Because Cambridge were about harvesting data. And data is very valuable for people that fight elections. And the story is they harvested more data than they were legally entitled to do and didn't remove it. That is the accusation that Facebook are making against Cambridge Analytica. And, you know, I can't comment on the truth of that whatsoever. But it is a story. I promise you this one is going to run and run. Why? Well, because Steve Bannon was one of the directors back in 2014 of Cambridge Analytica. And Cambridge Analytica themselves perhaps have talked about the victory of Trump and been much said in this country about what role did they or did they not play in the referendum campaign. And of course, everybody from Robert Mercer, the businessman that's their big backer, through Bannon, through everybody else. Of course, what will happen is it won't be very long before my name is in the middle of all of it, because I just happen to have met or know the players. I've never worked with or for Cambridge Analytica. Yes, of course, I've met the directors and people that run it. I have to confess, when it comes to the high arts of technology, I'm probably one of the least qualified people to comment in the world. What I will say is that the accusation that's going to get made is that illegal data was used in the American election, and they'll start to ask the question, was illegally held data used in the referendum? I just want to say this. To my knowledge, Cambridge Analytica played little or no role in the UK referendum campaign. They would, had Leave.eu won the nomination, have played a very big role, but Vote Leave won the nomination to run the referendum, not Leave.eu. And as far as America's concerned, well, again, to the best of my knowledge, the guy that did the big digital media for Donald Trump in the campaign was a man called Brad Pascal, big 6'8", Brad Pascal. And Brad has now been appointed, of course, Trump's campaign manager for his re-election bid in 2020. And to my knowledge, Cambridge did not play a big or significant role in that election at all. So there we are. And I'm saying those things hand on heart, believing them to be absolutely true. But I think you'll see more of this story. I'm told there's more news to come out, so we'll kind of watch this space. Back to an extended transition period, and Robin Eltham has a strong view. He says, are they having a ... laugh? We voted out. Get out now. We didn't ever vote for transition periods. This is blatant stalling till the next election. It's so blatant. Well, Rob, I have to say, I didn't vote for transition at all. I voted to leave. Mohammed from Wembley says, morning, Nigel. My view is that as soon as the leave vote was confirmed, the transition period had started. And Mohammed, it took them 9 months to trigger Article 50. We had the admission on the Ian Dale show last Thursday from Osborne, who'd been the Chancellor, that they deliberately, willfully not got the civil service to make any alternative plans if there was a leave vote. And I have to say, I myself thought 2 years for Article 50, surely we can sort the whole thing out before then, and yet here we are. Theresa May should tell the EU in plain English to stop making stupid, idiotic threats, or the UK will revert to WTO rules without any further notice. If they don't understand that, hard luck. Richard in Chelsea. Well, she's been like that with Russia. You never know. We could see a different Prime Minister on Thursday. Don't hold your breath, though. Let's ask Kathy, who was calling from Abingdon. Kathy, do you want to see this transition period extended? Does Hilary Benn have a fair point?
Hello, Nigel. It's an honour to speak to you.
Good morning.
I have to say that. No, we need absolutely no transition. People have got to understand that the EU agenda is nothing to do with trade. It's all about stalling, like you said, till the next election, and it is all about pumping in immigration. They are trying to keep Ireland separated so they can still plan to put in their million through Ireland, which will still come into us. We need to shut the borders. Their EU agenda continues, and people out there really need to wake up and listen to what Sir James Goldsmith said. He told us all about this. This has nothing to do with trade. Russia's a smokescreen. All this stalling is all smoke screens so they continue, and they are continuing every day with their EU immigration agenda.
What is that, Kathy?
Europe.
Kathy, what do you think the EU's immigration agenda is?
To destroy Europe.
To destroy Europe, or to change?
Look at what's happening today now in Madrid. It's all been hidden. Everybody's been hidden what's going on in Sweden, in Germany. It's all been hidden.
So you're talking about the numbers that have been let in across the Mediterranean and the lack of integration, yeah?
It's way beyond integration. There is no such thing as integration.
But do you actually,
Europe.
Kathy, who would want... Who in the European Commission? I mean, they might want to fundamentally change Europe. And look, one of Tony Blair's top advisors said, they wanted to diversify Britain and rub the noses in the right in it and change society. Yeah. But who of them would be doing this to want to destroy Europe?
Oh, well, that's to be exposed yet. That piece of jigsaw, I cannot say. I have not found that piece of jigsaw yet, but it's starting to become more clear every day.
But why would they... Why, Kathy? Look, nobody has publicly been more critical of the Juncker-Merkel ludicrous idea of we can cope with whoever comes in and no checks. And as you well know, in the referendum, I used that photograph, of that column of people.
Yes, which is correct.
No women, no children, no elderly, no disabled, all young men, very few of whom would ever qualify to be refugees. But Kathy, who would actually want this to destroy Europe? What motive?
I think it's because basically the EU is owned by massive bankers, and it's a supremacist parliament. It's an Orwellian idea, basically. That's where we're going.
Well,
we want an Orwellian type Europe, which is controlled by an elite supremacist parliament.
Kathy, strong views. Thank you for your call. And Kathy there from Abingdon, who thinks they actually want to just keep the doors open and to destroy us. And that's a reason why some politicians may want to extend transit. But it is true, of course, and you may disagree with some of the things Kathy was saying there. But what is true is that those who wish us to extend the transition period, those who would effectively reverse the effect of the referendum vote, are those who support continued open borders with Europe. James is a first-time caller from Barnes in south-west London. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. Very nice to speak to you. Nigel, in the House of Lords last week, Lord MP, I'm sure you know him, MP.
From Northern Ireland, yep.
Gave a very analytical, forensic analysis of the trade situation between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland.
Yep.
And it is 1.5% of trade goes from the Northern Ireland to the Republic of Ireland. And would you believe it's 1.5% of trade that comes from the Republic of Ireland to Northern Ireland across those borders? 1.5% of each of the two countries' trades.
Well, I don't know about the 1.5%, Joe. What I do know, James, is that of Irish-owned...
Lord MP's figures are you can check them, and they come. I mean, he is quoting the official statistics.
But what I do know is that for many Republic of Ireland farmers, the UK market is vital. That little thing I do know.
Oh yes, of course. But I mean, he gave us. I mean, I do suggest, Nigel, that to bolster your own arguments, that you listen to his to take the recording of that.
Well, do you know what? I haven't, James, and I will. But I haven't, and I will. I did listen to Bertie Ahern, the former Taoiseach, who said, "Look, all we need to do here is to adopt some common sense. It's not the end of the world to sort this out." James, all problems in life can be solved with will, can't they?
There's a will, Nigel. There's a way, and I'm afraid that we are having logs thrown in our path in every direction. But I mean, you must keep, if you don't mind me saying, Nigel, you must keep ploughing on at the criticism and analysis of the civil service, because that is where your biggest roadblock lies, in the Treasury and in the
I think
the Whitehall Department.
I think, James, for Brexiteers to describe the civil servants in the Treasury and the Foreign Office, and we see when they're retired or leave, so somebody comes on to condemn Brexit, to describe them, James, as a roadblock is moderate language, well suited to a Sunday morning. And thank you very much indeed for your call. In a minute, John Ketley with the weather. For now, you're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 11:46.
Coming up at 12 on LBC, Majid Nawaz.
Boris Johnson has said the UK is in possession of evidence that Russia has been stockpiling nerve agent for assassinations. So why are people still sceptical?
Majid Nawaz on LBC.
The internet is no longer confined to computers and mobile devices. Many everyday objects now have network connectivity. The Internet of Things is developing rapidly, and businesses need to future-proof their networks to stay ahead. BT can help keep you connected to customers and people with connection, collaboration and security solutions, whatever the size, sector or ambitions of your business. Find out more and enter to win an Apple MacBook Air at lbc.co.uk.
Hello and welcome to Scam or Smart. We'll play 2 investment pitches. You guess which one's a scam. OK, here's the first.
Well, this could offer a good counterbalance to your current portfolio.
Interesting. Now for the second.
This is something that will appeal to a successful investor like yourself.
So, which one's the scam? Well, it was the second pitch. Hard to tell? That's why smart investors always check the warning list from the Financial Conduct Authority. Search Scam Smart.
Discover Britain's best places to live in the Sunday Times. Whether you're looking for bustling nightlife in Notting Hill or the quiet life in Totnes, great schools in Edinburgh or great views in Falmouth. Whatever the reason, don't move till you've read our 48-page magazine in association with Habito, only in the Sunday Times this weekend.
£1 could buy you a couple of minutes at the hairdresser's or a handful of cinema popcorn. Or £1 could buy you a Thunderball ticket for a chance to win £500,000. Bit of a no-brainer, really. Thunderball, only from the National Lottery. For just £1, you could win £500,000. Why not play this Tuesday? Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
With breakdown cover from the AA, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure your big wheels keep on turning. Our mechanics usually fix your car within 30 minutes of arriving. Breakdown cover from the AA, because anything can happen.
Did you know between them, Sky, BT and Virgin Media have raised their prices mid-contract 4 times in the last year? If you've been affected, it's your right to leave your provider within 30 days, penalty-free. When you switch to TalkTalk, we guarantee no mid-contract price rises on all our broadband plans. Right now, our unlimited fibre broadband is just $22.50 a month, over 18 months including line rental. It's our best ever deal. That's why we've been voted Uswitch Best Broadband TV and Home Phone Provider 2018. Hurry, deal ends 28th of March. TalkTalk, for everyone. Contract and conditions apply.
I start with an O. I end with a Y. I am the second biggest preventable cause of cancer. What am I?
Did you guess it? The biggest preventable cause of cancer after smoking is obesity. Search Cancer Research UK Obesity for the facts.
The family member who was concerned. The neighbour who felt uneasy. The teacher who was worried. The coach who noticed at practice. And you. It's up to all of us to keep children safe. If you think a child may be at risk, report it to your local council, who can provide the support a child may need. If you think it, report it. Visit gov.uk/tackle child abuse to find out how. And together, we can tackle child abuse.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Well, of course, there's a huge debate about Russia and the poisoning scandal and Brexit and how Mrs May's going to get on when she goes to Brussels on Thursday. But actually, that's not really what you're talking about today, is it? Now, what you're all talking about is, of course, the return of the snow. And I have to tell you that during the middle of the second half yesterday, when it was obvious to me that England were going to lose to Ireland, I took the kids, I live on the North Downs, and we went tobogganing, and I rather enjoyed it. It was great. But for today, a lot of people are seeing rugby and football matches cancelled. There are amber warnings and yellow warnings for snow and ice covering large parts of the UK. We're even told up to 10 inches of snow is expected to fall in certain places, and some disappointed people too at Heathrow Airport. Well, John Ketley is a weatherman and he joins us now. Good morning, John.
Yeah, good morning, Nigel.
Could you define to us a mini beast? This is what I read in my newspapers.
Well, you know, we had it's a déjà vu situation, this, isn't it? 2 weeks ago we spoke on the programme, and that was a real maxi beast, wasn't it? That was coming in from Western Russia, and that went on for several days, and it really was something of a beast. Now, this one is a mini beast because it's only happening for 2 days, and things are going to start to ease considerably as we go through this coming week. But having said that, there is a lot of heavy snow around still at the moment. It's just that during the week there'll be no snow at all, but there will be some hard frost right the way through until probably Thursday.
Is it any possibility, John, that the mini beast comes from Russia as well?
Yes, indeed. It is coming from the Baltic states at the very least. So, yes, I'm not pointing fingers.
No,
I
can see a good conspiracy brewing here. I really can.
Well, I'm going to leave conspiracy to you, Nigel. It's your position, not mine. But I can tell you about the weather.
Very sweet of you.
That.
So tell us, what's the picture out there? And I've seen sort of the southwest, South Wales expecting heavy snow. Tell us what's going on out there.
Yeah, well, we've got snow showers still affecting the south and east of Scotland, across the Pennines and much of Wales, certainly. But I think the worst of it now is more confined to the West Country. So if you're looking from the Isle of Wight westwards into Wales and Devon, Somerset in particular, Bristol area, that's being very badly hit now with some heavy snow. It has caused cancellations with the rugby, for example, at Gloucester, although I think in Gloucester itself there hasn't been too much snow. It's a bit further west and south from there. But there are some more snow showers just showing the hand coming in across into Kent as well, back in from the continent. So we're not done with it yet. And this big band of snow that's affecting the West Country especially is just pivoting for the next 12 hours or so. So it's going to be around for the rest of today and into the first half of tonight. There will be considerable snow and there will be further drifting. Just as we had with the Maxi Beast, it is going to be drifting up across the Dartmoor and places like that. It'll be very difficult to get traffic through the small roads.
Yeah. No, and John, so it's 2 snowfalls in March. Can you tell us that once the mini beast is over, there'll be no more snow?
No, I'm not going to tell you that, Nigel, because I think it's only fair now. I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking to a legend, and you could be the first person to hear from me that this is not the end of the snow this month. It is a truism. And I have told a few people that over many years that it is more likely to snow on Easter Day than it is on Christmas Day. And at the moment, the suggestion would be that the cold weather comes back for Easter.
Whoa!
Whoa. It's not great news, is it? But
no, well, it's John. Thank you, and of course, Easter. Well, my birthday's early April, and I've had snow on my birthday more. Yeah. I think living on the North Downs in Kent, growing up there, than we ever had on Christmas Day. John Ketley, thanks very much indeed.
My pleasure.
Grave warnings there from John Ketley. You know, if you're getting ready for the big Easter egg hunt, you may need to make sure the kids have got fur-lined boots. The cold weather is coming back for Easter. Wow. Back to transition. Hillary Benn. How long should it be extended for? Or is it all a nonsense and a watering down and somewhat of a betrayal of Brexit? I'm going to ask Richard in Manningtree that very question. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigel.
Very interesting programme.
Good.
My question to you, man of all the immense knowledge of what the goings-on in the EU is, you're talking about, or they're talking about, a 2-year transitional period. I wonder if you could shed any light on the fact that I read in the news the other week, and I haven't heard it discussed by anybody, actually. This so-called payment into the EU coffers will continue until 2064.
Yes, that's right. In fact, 75% of the 40 billion so-called leaving bill, I'm not sure why there's one at all, but anyway, 75% of it is going to get paid, Richard, in the next 3 to 5 years. And thereafter, it's proposed that we go on paying, a sum of money for access to their markets. Although, given the number of German motor cars I saw on the road this morning, Richard, maybe they should be paying us until 2064 for access to our market.
Agree with you. I mean, it's all a nonsense, isn't it? We all know this. I mean, it's just a nonsense. They just want to drag it out for as long as possible and hope everything will go away and we'll forget about it.
The thing is, Richard, and there was a text I had earlier on the show which really summed it up beautifully. The person said, "I voted for independence," right? Yes. Not for some complex Brexit process that lasts for decades. We voted for independence. And the real problem, Richard, is that our leaders don't want to make a clean break of this. If you listen to what Theresa May said in Florence in that speech, we're leaving the Treaty of Rome, but we're going to sign back up to virtually everything else. So that, in effect, we could get Brexit in name only. My one big hope, Richard, is that we do leave that treaty on the 29th of March next year. But even when we've done that, there are going to be a lot more battles to fight, I suspect, in the years to come.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. I mean, it's just, I think, really and truthfully, I'm just so shocked, really. I always knew politics was a dirty game, but this goes beyond all this now. I mean, it's just unreal.
Richard, I mean, we were asking this question in the first hour this morning, but are you one of those people whose faith in politics and our leaders has gone down over the years?
Oh, you've read me, haven't you? Yeah.
Richard from Manningtree, thank you. I've got time for one more caller this morning. It's Harry from Red Hill. Good morning, Harry.
Hiya, I just want to say thank you for getting me into politics, because your speeches in the EU have made me inspired to actually follow politics now.
Well, that's terrific. I'm delighted. And are you inspired into politics because you like what I said or hate what I said?
Oh, I love it, what you said. Good. Now, after watching a few of your speeches in the EU, I've followed you now for a long time.
Terrific. So, Harry, we've got Hilary Benn saying that it's all too complicated. The lorries are going to be stuck at Dover. We'll never deal with the Irish border. Let's extend transition. And as I said earlier, I suspect in the next election. How do you feel about that?
Oh, we should be leaving on June the 24th this year. We should have been leaving then. Should have been Article 50 triggered after the referendum, and we're leaving no transition period straight away. We're leaving. If we get a deal, that's good, but I'd be happy with no deal, because no deal is better than a bad deal. Simple as. By definition, it must be.
If you said to somebody in the street, do you know what, I've got a really bad deal for you, guess what they'd say? They'd say no. I agree with that. Harry, it's nice to talk to you. I thought all of your generation were pro-Brexit. That's what the newspapers tell me.
No, my family and everything, they helped me grow up to be a 19-year-old who supports Brexit, and I defy my generation by proudly supporting Brexit.
Well done. And that's exactly what the Italians did, isn't it? 60% of the under-30s in Italy voted for sceptical parties. Harry, gotta go. It's the end of the Nigel Farage show today on LBC. I'm back tomorrow at 7. At 3 this afternoon, it's Alex Salmond. But up next, it's Majid Nawaz.
Thank you, Nigel. Coming up, fathers should be entitled to receive 1 month off work when their wife or partner has a baby and be paid 90% of their salary. The Women and Equalities Committee in Parliament will recommend. Should fathers get more paternity leave? Before that, a group of Rust Belt Tory MPs who won their seats in Labour heartlands are to launch a campaign this week telling Theresa May how to appeal to young voters. How can the Tories attract more young